Good evening, Dr. Varghese. How are you?
Good evening. Good evening. Where am I?
Good evening.
Good evening.
So nice to see that all are speakers on board except Neelam, who was traveling, but she'll be joining soon, I think. I believe she's been in touch with you, Dr. Satyendraji.
Yeah, she called me.
Yeah.
I didn't get time to prepare.
No, you don't have to prepare.
Or
You
read,
have to speak from your heart.
Or do anything.
No, you just have to speak from your heart.
Okay. So, pardon me if I'm not so,
No. In
clear.
fact, we are not looking for
In following
any
a sequence.
erudite talks. We just want very practical, discussions and coming from experts who have the experience in the field. I think there'll be many gems for all of us. I know you just came back also and you had no access to your library.
Nothing. and then I have a laptop that has crashed, including, I was thinking of how do I access the survey that we did together. Yeah. I couldn't even access that.
Not to worry, not to worry. You can just quote from your memory. In fact, this is a very mixed audience, and we are waiting for just at least a couple of more people joining. So until then, I think we'll have just this informal talk. So this is in any case supposed to be just a lot of sharing to give our perspectives on how we can promote disability inclusive development, and ideally planned as a series on inclusion. And there'll be more to come. But for today, we thought we'll just cover certain aspects, and Satyendraji will be also talking about it. I think we'll just wait for a couple of more people. And I know everybody here today who's speaking have really taken out their time from very busy schedules. And all of you, in fact, are the ones who need the Sunday rest very badly. But then we thought at least you will get some time to speak. Mallikarjun sir did say that he'll start, so I don't know if QCPRRC is. Uh, anyway, I've just sent a message. We'll wait. And for those who have joined on time, just an apology to keep them waiting.
Ma'am, actually it is me, QCPRRC.
Is you okay?
I was
Okay.
sending quick messages to all the other therapists and my and other professionals who I sent.
Yes.
The
Thank
link.
you.
Yeah.
No, actually, there was normally a president does disseminate the information and put on website. I believe yesterday he misplaced his phone and he recovered it only today.
Oh.
So, and then I did convey to him that we'll wait for him to start and say a few lines about IACP. But
Yeah.
would you like to, if he's not coming in the next couple of minutes, would you like to talk about IACP a few lines? And then I'll just talk about the team inclusion. Since you're anyway coordinator for all the watchwords.
Okay, ma'am. Okay. Mallikarjun sir is here? No.
I don't see, actually, I did send a message though.
Okay. Good evening, Varghese sir.
Good evening, sir. Good evening.
I met you in Delhi when I was in RBSK.
Oh,
And,
yes.
And we organized a workshop for the orthopedic surgeons for
Yes.
clubfoot management.
Yes, thank you.
At AIMS. Yeah.
Thank you for supporting us in that.
Now, actually, Dr. Ashish Ghosh is the coordinator for all watchword groups. Like I'm chairing one of the groups, the inclusion team, which is actually presenting this webinar today. But
good evening, madam. I was under impression that you will be inviting all the distinguished speakers and gathering, and I just started the meeting and I was traveling, but however, no problem. And
I'm very happy you could join, sir, because it's right that you talk. And
so,
then
on behalf of Indian Academy of Cerebral Palsy, I invite all the distinguished speakers, Dr. Matthew Varghese, Dr. Indumati Rao, Dr. Jayanti Mekhala, and Dr. Satyendra Singh ji. And especially I thank Dr. Sunanda Kolli Reddy Madam for planning for this wonderful webinar. on inclusive education. Long back when we started our webinars in 2019, a series of webinars, I wanted to invite Dr. Indumati Rao Madam because I met her a long back, 25-30 years back at, she may be long back at Thakur Hari Prasad Institute, Hyderabad. I regularly follow her articles and lot of good work, and she's inspiring also. At this is all the time dynamic and very active in the field of rehabilitation, mentoring so many young professionals. Thank you, madam. And this way we are honored that you both stalwarts joined our ISCP mission watchwords. This is a organization, multidisciplinary team, members organization, Indian Academy of Cerebral Palsy. We started this organization in 2004. Many academic programs all over the country, reaching the unreached professionals and families. We offered training programs and parents education programs all over these years. And due to this pandemic, we are one way lucky that we could meet, reach many thousands of professionals through virtual meetings, from national and international faculty, eminent faculty we invited, and disseminated a high standard and teaching programs to all the young professionals and parents and family. Also we invited. We organized the programs for, especially for parents and persons with disabilities. I really, in 2021, we have taken up the flagship mission program. I'm sorry that there is a echo. Flagship mission, ISCP mission watchwords, with the 7 watchwords for the management for disabilities, developing countries. So all over the country, we invited very eminent professionals to be members of this organization, for this mission watchwords. They have, with the help of them, we have developed a vision document and action plan, and we have successfully completed the first phase of our action plan, and we are just slowly transition phase into the second phase of our ISCP mission watchwords in the management of developmental disabilities in developing countries. We have 7 watchwords. One is access, inclusion, empowerment, research, surveillance, and workforce. The major watchword that we are working on a leadership program also. Under all this watchword team, leaders are very senior professionals and highly reputed professionals in the field of rehabilitation, and the team members are very seniors and young, mix of all the professionals, multidisciplinary team. And we are very happy that this our flagship mission ISCP watchword is successful. I thank on behalf of all of our Indian Academy of Cerebral Palsy Executive Board and Board of Directors and members. I thank all of you for joining us this mission, and I welcome you and hope that all the audience are going to have a wonderful academic feast today. Of course, it is 4 o'clock, but a knowledge feast. Thank you very much. We have disseminated the information to all across the country, thousands of professionals. I hope that they will take the benefit of this wonderful webinar. Thank you very much, madam, for inviting us to welcome all of our distinguished speakers. Despite of their busy schedule, they have accepted, given a consent to speak in our webinar. Thank you very much. Madam, Sunanda madam.
Namaste, good evening everybody, and thank you sir, Dr. Mallikarjun Garu, for the introduction to IACP. So I'll just say a few lines about the inclusion team, which is today getting to present this webinar on disability inclusive development. We, in the sense, I will not go over the details, but since Mallikarjun sir has already said, the intention to move the buzzwords of watchwords to actually translate it into action for a change that will endure. That was what we wanted. And inclusion team made this statement of embracing diversity, to respect human rights, promote equity with full participation for disability inclusive development that we envision for future. And this vision statement and with this brief description, I shall actually hand over to Dr. Satyendra Singh, who is going to be the moderator of the day. Dr. Satyendra Singh is Professor of Physiology at University College of Medical Sciences and GTB Hospital, Delhi. He is actually a disability rights defender who has worked hard to include disability competencies training in the medical curriculum. He is also the governing council member of International Academy, International Alliance of Academies of Cerebral Palsy and Developmental Disabilities. He is the co-chair of the International Council of Disability Inclusion in Medical Education. He is also a member of the Delhi State Committee for Research and Disability. He has a fellowship in medical ethics and medical education. He's also National Awardee 2021 with quite a few awards in the last 4-5 years. And many of you are familiar with his writings on including professionals, particularly doctors, into higher education. With that, I'll hand over to Dr. Satyendra Singh.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you, Dr. Mallikarjun sir, President IACP, and Dr. Sunanda Reddy, Chair of Inclusion Group. Today, we are having a very interesting webinar on disability inclusive development. And we have a great list of panelists to cover the topics. The 2030 Agenda for a Sustainable Development Goal, pledging to leave no one behind, is an ambitious plan of action of the international community towards a peaceful and prosperous world. It is therefore critical to ensure in this regard the full and equal participation of people with disabilities in all spheres. In fact, in 2018, the United Nations launched its first ever flagship report on disability and the Sustainable Developmental Goals, and it was titled Realization of the SDGs by, for, and with persons with disabilities. And the report actually demonstrated that people with disabilities are at disadvantage regarding most SDGs. And here in today's webinar, we have in fact covered two broad areas, SDG 3 on health and rehabilitation and SDG 4 on quality education, in addition to the topics on government schemes and social role valorization. So with that, I welcome all the distinguished panelists, and our first speaker is Dr. Indumati Rao, and it's my honor to introduce her. She is the chairperson of Global Partnership for Disability Development initiated by the World Bank Trust Fund. She is member Central Advisory Board of Education, Subcommittee on Disability. She is a member of Niti Aayog. She is vice chairperson National BL Bal Bhavan and was founder and director of organizations like Nivedita Shishu Kendra, Nivedita Mano Vikas Kendra, Seva in Action, and now the regional advisor for CBR network in South Asia. She served as member of National Commission for People with Disabilities. She was member of Advisory Board on Special Needs, NCRT. She was Zonal Coordination Committee member at RCI, National Commission for Women's Section on for Women with Disabilities, and was also an advisory committee member for NCPCR. So with that, I welcome Dr. Indumati Rao. She will be speaking on ensuring equitable access to inclusive education for children with special needs in the framework of CBID. Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you very much. I'm very thankful to Dr. Sunanda for bringing me to this group in one of our proverbs in Kannada. We say it is always good to fight with sandalwood rather than play with the rubbish. So this forum is something like where we'll be fighting, discussing with people who will spread the fragments, because you are all stalwarts in the field. So it makes me immensely happy to be part of this group. So at the outset, I really thank Dr. Sunanda and the team for involving me in this. Sunanda ji, I just want to know how much time I have.
We would be very happy to listen to you. Please go ahead. I think we don't want to put a limit on your talk, but anyway, most probably we would like to finish by 5:30 so that there'll be time for questions.
Thank you very much. I'll be speaking more from the ground level realities. Some may sound a little bit not very pleasing to ears, but I feel in a forum like this, it's very important to share some of the concerns what we have regarding the policies we have in our country, and the approaches that have been taken, and the role of NGOs and the government. And especially I would really focus on parents and families who are the primary support givers in a country like ours. So having said that, what exactly is the policy on inclusion? Of course, the policy on inclusion, it stems from several global policies. You are all stalwarts. I don't have to repeat why this thinking about policies stems from the global policies, and then at a national level there is an action. So even in the field of disability, time and again we see more the global policies being in the driver's seat, taking the lead, and then the member countries following it. What is wrong with it? No, let us really take a look at it. What can go wrong and what can go right when the international policies is in the driver's seat. So we'll have a deeper look into that. So the international policies on disability, I would not go way back from 70s, but very recently, we had a very important policy which India signed and ratified, and it is everybody knows that it's known as the UN Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities. So it is one of the important policies India signed and ratified around 2006-7. Then as a result of that, it replaced one of the older disability legislation called Persons with Disabilities and Equal Opportunities Act with a new act called Rights of Persons with Disabilities Act in 2016, which was passed by the Indian Parliament. So there is another policy which is guiding the whole world, and that policy is known as SDG Goals Agenda 17, where it looks at all aspects of sustainable development goals, and these goals are being accepted by all the member countries, and all member countries, including India, they are moving ahead to make these SDG goals, they don't remain on paper, but they are translated in action. Though SDG goals doesn't mention about disability in specific, almost all the goals, and especially I would talk about the goals like goal number 3, goal number 4, goal number 5, and goal number 1, talking about extreme poverty and universal health and quality of education, goal number 4. They are all, say, directly concerned with children with disabilities. It doesn't talk about it, talks about people with extreme poverty. And as you know, children with disabilities, families with disabilities, and people with disabilities in countries like ours, a majority of them live in rural areas, around 76% of them as per 2011 disability census. And a majority of them also live in extreme poverty. So this is something which we have to really keep in mind when we talk about what kind of inclusion we are really talking about. So before I really share these slides, I really want to us to think about this. The whole concept of inclusion has two things. One is it is almost like inviting someone for lunch or for coffee home. So what we would do generally is we prepare the home, we prepare something, and then we open the door. So inclusion happens when there is a two-way action taken place by people who come there. They have to make an effort, maybe to take an auto or a bus or a metro or walk, and people who receive them also need to make an effort to receive them. If the society, when it talks about inclusion, if there is no preparedness on both sides, then we see many problems which we see in many countries. I will not talk only about India because with my limited exposure working across the globe, I see these problems exist everywhere. Both parties are not prepared. Neither children or people with disabilities are prepared for inclusion, nor where they are being included. Especially, I would talk about the community, the society, that is not being prepared. So, what the word the some of the terms that is used like mainstreaming, inclusion, and all that, it may end up like main dumping because there is no preparedness. So whatever happens when something is dumped, the same experience happens to both parties. Not only talking about children with disabilities or even the people with disabilities, not only children, but I'm also talking about the community. They also go through the same thing because it's a lot of shock and negative feelings that one may end up when we are not prepared. So the preparedness becomes very crucial. So government of India has, for the first time since independence, this is a 75th year. So what really is very unique about what happened in 2020 is for the first time in the history of India, the education ministry included the education of children with disabilities as an integral part of education, which was never done earlier, even in 1986 curricular framework or in NPE, new education, NEP, new education policy. So it was more like add-on, but here in National Education Policy 2020, it was seen as an integral part of education system. That is something very critical for inclusion because all these years it was like a velcro. So like there was there was something like IED, IEDC, IEDSS, then there was DP, earlier DPEP, then there was another program called PIED. Since I was part of all this journey, I have seen that it was like a velcro where the host was not prepared but the guest was included. So we saw a lot of most of the evaluation says that it never worked. It never worked because that kind of inclusion will not work. So let us see that what really made NEP to look at education of children with disabilities as an integral part of education system is it is a very blatant writing on the wall that earlier nothing really worked. I must say that. So, because and earlier when it had, if it something had worked, it had worked because children were included in education in schools in closer to neighborhood by default, not by design. So they were included by default. They somehow managed education by default, and they also excelled. And we have many people in the country. They without people like me, they did very well. So they did very well with whatever was available support system within the family. I would give major support that is given to the family as one of the key factors, and to neighborhood school and the peer. So it all happened in a way. So that all also is very evident when we do data mining of 2011 disability census, say 20. Like we are amazed to see that how they could access education when there was nothing available. It has happened. It sounds like a miracle, but it has happened. So it has happened to a majority of persons with where the disabilities did not affect in learning, but they did not happen to some of the disabilities where it would have affected learning, like in case of children with cerebral palsy, or it could be children with autism, children with sensory deficits. So they did not benefit much by that inclusion, but other children with very say with a mild level of difficulties, they could get included. So I just want to run just through the what national education policy talks about. I request the organizers to enable me to share.
Ma'am, you're already co-host. You may share.
It says post disabled participants screen sharing. Have you enabled me? I'm still getting post disabled participant screen sharing. Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah. I just don't want to go through everything because I know that most of you have know about new education policy. I'll just quickly go through some of the key components. As you all know, um, the new education policy has come at a time where there is a reform of the entire education system. And when they look at the entire education system, it starts from early childhood. Again, it is happening for the first time because early childhood was never seen as a integral part of education for three reasons. Since most of you are medical professionals and pediatricians, I don't have to explain the issues what we had. The challenges were more with child survival, nutrition, and immunization. So the most of the focus on early childhood went for health related aspects. And even if we see, even to this date, the development card that is being used in Anganwadis, ICDS, it has only two parameters, that is height and weight. The developmental parameters, though there was an effort to include, but it has never been included. So the development of a child, the holistic the development of a child is still a challenge, and which has not been completely absorbed. But in spite of that, the NEP has included in chapter 1, the very NEP starts with chapter 1, early childhood, where it talks about unless there is a firm foundation laid, elementary education, secondary education, higher education, all everything will collapse. That is a very good say realization, and that has been said very clearly. But in when they talk about early childhood education, they do not mention about children who may have difficulties due to various reasons. But I would not give so much, focus on that, but it talks about what we call as all children, all in capital. So it is a good background for us to start to ensure that all includes every child, leaving no child behind. So the inclusion is seen at three dimensions. at the physical level, at social level, and functional level. So all three level inclusions has needs a lot of importance. And what we have seen is more with physical inclusion and very little with functional inclusion, because even now, because you're now, since I am talking to very highly qualified professionals, it is not possible to get the learning outcomes and learning levels of children with disabilities earlier, but only now they have started publishing it on the public domain. So we need to analyze. So we need to have the data on how well the child is being included. We have to look at all the three dimensions. The two dimensions is so important. It's not measurable social inclusion, but it is a very critical area. So we have to look at how we can really measure the social inclusion part. Of course, functional inclusion, because otherwise, why parents should send their children to schools if they are not benefiting from the school. I have already explained the entire process of how we have arrived at NEP because of various factors, including the various legislations we have. So when it comes to disability data, we don't really know how many children are there. So from 2011 census, we have some idea, but they have counted about 7 types of disabilities. And also when we look at the RPWD Act, which looks at 21 types of disabilities, we really have no idea that where are these children and what they are doing. I would say God only knows is the answer, because we don't have a data. Schools doesn't maintain any registration system of children with disabilities. That is one of the main drawback in our country. We don't get a data from the school system. So this is from the 2011 census. So we have quite a large number, but I would put it with the population attrition rate, which has been published by the Health Ministry at 1.04% for the decadal growth. It is we can easily say that the number must have gone 10 times more, multiplied by 3 times, because 2011 census counted 7 types and 21 is 3 times more. So we are talking of a large number, but this is just a estimate what I am giving. So it is a very large numbers which we are talking about, and I have done this analysis which speaks volumes on the need to focus on early childhood, because they are not even counted, so they are not being identified, and if they are not identified in early childhood, as since most of you are pediatricians, you know how important it is to give support. Even 3 is too late for early childhood support. So though RBSK talks about 1,000 days, but we don't see the early identification system in India in place to identify children at birth or in the first 1,000 days of the child. So we don't see. That is the reason why we have a very small number, and suddenly we see a large number coming up when they reach the age group of 10 to 19. So it is a very critical issue, not only for statistical analysis, but even for policies. How can there be such a high rise in children, and what could be the contributing factors for such a rise? So yeah, I don't want to jump into oversimplified conclusions, but this area really needs a lot of analysis and review. So I will not go into the details of the poverty and disability link. You all know that it is very closely linked. So India is a transition, no doubt about it. And disability sometimes, I personally feel it is not understood properly as a policy area, because see, disability in Indian Constitution is listed as a state subject. It is not in the concurrent list, it is not in the central list. So it is included in the state list. Not only that, it is a panchayat raj subject. It's a subject of a local body. The onus of responsibility lies with the state government and panchayats to plan programs. But if you see any states, I would say any of the state, we don't have state-specific policies. We don't have district specific strategies. We don't have that. So all this should happen at the district and state level. We don't have that because equity means that it has to be relevant to the district and it has to be relevant to that person. So we don't have a system where to decentralize the operation and see developing strategies based on the actual need of people with disabilities at district level. We don't have that system. We don't, by and large, of course, there are some isolated examples of NGOs, but this I'm talking as from the government. There is no system to quantify that in all the 540 districts, 540 odd districts in India. So the goal is, of course, it has a very time-bound indicator, the SDG 4. So we have to really look at how well the inclusive education would be look at, because it really talks about vulnerable groups and children with disabilities. So it's very clearly written here.
17
So we need to really look into that very seriously.
దాంట్లో 6 speakers.
Yeah. Did you say something?
No, ma'am, please go ahead.
So I will skip these slides. I will just go to the NEP. NEP makes a big change the way it is understood, no? The inclusive education. See, inclusive education is not just for children with disabilities, it is meant for all children. And NEP has a focus and they put it under SEDG, socially economically disadvantaged groups. And they list out about 7 types of groups in India. And they also say that each state should include their own disadvantaged groups, even to going to district level. So this is a long-term exercise that each state has to look at who are those SCDG sections who need to be included. So that has to take place. And if you see the NEP, the focus is on learning outcomes. There are plus points when we focus on learning outcomes, but there are also minus points because learning outcomes cannot be seen as the only way to measure the quality of inclusive education. They talk about the very important aspect is about universal access and early childhood education, and this is built into NEP, so it all depends on how well NEP gets implemented at the state level. The key takeaways of NEP is known that it has an emphasis on identifying and fostering unique capabilities, which is very important because we talk about diverse needs of children. Flexibility, no hard separation between science and other areas, holistic education, conceptual understanding, creativity and critical thinking, ethics and human and constitutional values, liberty, multilingualism, life skills, and skill development from the class 5th onwards. All that is very, very beneficial for children with disabilities if we need to, I mean, if we can really make optimum use of these policy directions. It also talks about removing language barriers. And also talks about extensive use of technology. And when we look at technology, it talks about digital learning. And when we look at the teachers, the building capacity of teachers, not just because they have to teacher training, but they continuously upgrade their knowledge. That way, that is going to really change. And every teacher has to be inclusive teacher, not depending on special teachers to go and teach children with disabilities. They are some of the key factors in NEP. So it will, if NEP is implemented in all states, it should result in education system that contribute in equitable and vibrant knowledge and develop a deep sense of respect towards the fundamental rights, duties, bonding with one's country and conscious awareness, instill skills, values, and dispositions leading to human rights and sustainable development. So this should happen if it gets implemented at the village level. So These are some of the 6 pillars I have suggested. The policy is there, but unless there is a focus on 0 to 3 and 3 to 6 years in NEP implementation, children with disabilities will be disadvantaged by early childhood education. So we need to look at developing teachers who can teach all children, and we need teachers at early childhood who can support all children. So early childhood is one of the key factors which I really want to work with your group to take it forward. I'm very happy the Mysore University, Karnataka State Open University have come forward to develop teachers who can give early childhood support to all children. Flexibility is fine, but again, in the name of disability, segregation of any kind should be avoided. I request people to mute their microphones. And having said that, see, there are children who may need curriculum which is that tailor-made to meet their individual needs. That is what equity is all about. The regular curriculum may not be relevant. So having that in mind and developing a alternative curriculum for children, especially with intellectual disabilities, is very important. The setting could be anywhere. It could be CBR, it could be home-based, it could be a special school, sorry, or self-help groups. The settings could be different, but one curriculum for all is like going and buying a t-shirt in a ready-made say store where the wearer tries to fit into the shirt size. It could be XL or small or large, but in equity it has to be tailor-made garment, and unless that is available, inclusive education becomes a farce. So it's very important to see that the curriculum is tailor-made for each child, and it cannot be just one curriculum for all. It is not going to work. And inclusive school complexes, what NEP talks about school complex is an excellent one, so that where there can be a lot of support system. And I want to share a multi-purpose, multi-utility learning stations which we have established to support the government schools works very well. So it is not a very high cost one, but we have to give that support to the schools so that children who go there, they get included in all the 3 levels, not just physical level. So that support system has to be included. And built-in options for special and inclusion, single regulation system. So the right now there is a lot of dichotomy of RCI, NCT and all that. So education is education. There should not be too many regulatory bodies policing. So there just should be one say some policy making body, and which will make life easy for people. Otherwise, what we see is a lot of contradicting policies in India that has to be removed. So, as you know that UNEP talks about multiple pathways, they talk about building schools, learning outcomes. It's not physical schools, but they talk about building the support system and bring back the dropouts, tracking children, which is very important for children with disabilities, that children tracking must take place until the child completes the 18 years of age, and alternative system. It could be home-based education, it could be home education, it could be any form of education. We should come out and open the horizon. It should flow like Ganga. No, it should not be stagnant water education. So that is something very important, and NEP talks about it very openly. But we have to see that it is also implemented at the state level. So I will not go into the various issues I have discussed in this paper, but all that it is, unless we involve parents, unless we work very actively with community, and unless we involve the local bodies, because it is their responsibility. It is a panchayat raj subject, it is a local body subject. Unless we work with them and develop guidelines or circulars like how they should work with people with disabilities at the Gram Panchayat level, at the Taluk Panchayat level, at Jilla Panchayat level, Just talking everything at a national level, global level, that is not going to change the life of a child with disability. So here I would like to stop here, and pause here, not stop. I would really like to have, respond to any questions or give clarifications, because there are many things in NEP which I can show at a later point if someone is more interested about NEP.
Thank you so much, Professor Rao, for sharing their excellent presentation and talking about the policy recommendations and the actual scenario as far as the as far as children with the disabilities are concerned. So you talked about the national education policy, but if you look at the, we do not yet have a national disability policy. It is still in the draft stage, has been framed behind the closed doors and not yet shared with the disability community yet. Similarly, recently, the University Grant Commission shared the draft accessibility and inclusive guidelines, but they only gave 13 days for the stakeholder feedback, which is against law because minimum 30 days are mandatory required to give stakeholder feedback. So that's the problem at the policy level and the real implementation. So we will take questions, ma'am, after all the 4 presentations. And may I again request you, can you kindly make me the host again, so that other speakers can share their PowerPoint, ma'am? My name is Satyendra Singh. If you can make me the host again, Dr. Indumati Rao.
I didn't get that. You want me to
Ma'am,
share?
you are unable to share the screen, so I made you the host. Can you make me the host?
Oh, okay. I need to do that. Okay. Yeah.
Yes, ma'am. Just, my name is Dr. Satyendra Singh. If you can just click on the 3 dots and make me the host again. So moving on, we have a very distinguished.
I have enabled others to share me.
Thank you, ma'am. So we have a very distinguished next speaker, and we all know Dr. Professor Matthew Varghese. He is a distinguished alumnus of Maulana Azad Medical College from my own university, University of Delhi. He is currently the head of Department of Orthopedic Surgery at St. Stephen's Hospital, Delhi. He is a former director of the hospital. He is also adjunct faculty at the WHO Collaborating Center on Transportation Research and Injury Prevention Program at IIT Delhi. He is chair of the largest clubfoot program, Clubfoot India Initiatives Trust, in the world. He is also a founding member of Independent Council of Road Safety International. He is known for his contribution in rehabilitation of polio patients, and he was regional technical advisor for disability and also regional technical advisor for road safety at the WHO CRO office. The polio warrior who runs the only polio ward in the country wants his ward empty. And that speaks volume of the commitment and passion of Dr. Varghese. So over to Dr. Varghese, and his topic is rehabilitation, inclusive healthcare for all.
Thank you, Dr. Satyendra. Thank you for those flattering words of introduction. I have no slides to share. I apologize for that. I just didn't get time. I was not in town. I came back and I just couldn't put time to put the slides together.
No, sure, sir. That's the
So
best.
what I have to say will come from the heart. I apologize and seek the indulgence of the listeners to forgive me if it doesn't seem to be completely in a sequence. I may jump sequence sometimes just because the thought has come to me at that point. However, I'll try my best to speak from what I see when I deal with patients who come to me with disabilities. And as you mentioned, I'm known as a polio warrior. So from across the country and outside the country, I get polio patients. But many are actually not polio. Many are cerebral palsy. Many are other paralytic conditions. So the first step is to understand that the healthcare system must be geared to receive any patient with what kind of condition that I deal with, that is musculoskeletal disability. But that's what we see. It is visible. Anybody can see a lame person. Anybody can see a wheelchair-bound patient. What we don't see are the persons with intellectual impairment, are the persons with mental illness, persons with cardiorespiratory illness who are breathless, who look physically normal otherwise, but who cannot walk more than 10 steps. So the spectrum moves from the grotesquely visible to the so-called apparently phenotypically normal looking people, but they are not definitely normal. They need medical help. So one would imagine that the number of people with such problems, as we are advancing in healthcare, advancing in technology, advancing in reach, the numbers should decrease. This is something I was surprised when very young, as a first year postgraduate, I learned from Professor Dinesh, associated with him in IIT Delhi. He says, no, Matthew, when societies evolve economically, when societies evolve in terms of delivery of healthcare from primary care, when it improves, your need for secondary care will go up. When your secondary care improves, your need for tertiary care goes up. When your tertiary care goes up, your need for quaternary care goes up. So depending on, once a need is fulfilled, the next level should be ready with it. So the healthcare inclusiveness will be truly inclusive if all the levels of our healthcare, from primary to the secondary to tertiary, quaternary, all are ready to receive that patient. But does it stop at that? No. Your healthcare is a continuum of care, and that includes prevention, and that also includes rehabilitation and also vocational training to get back to a contributing, earning, independent living member in the community. That's important. When parents coming to me with different disabilities, they come to me, their only worries, हमारे बाद क्या होगा इसका? Doctor साहब, हमारे बाद क्या होगा? What will happen after us? That's one worry which is there in their mind all the time. They are petrified of that. Whereas our social security systems should take care. For example, when I went to Sweden, the first thing that I noticed is up to 5 years, parents don't have to worry. Everything is taken care of. First 2 years, the state takes care of the child completely. And after 60 years, after retirement, again, the state takes care of you completely. It is a complete, total, holistic care. As societies improve in healthcare, the nature of disability will change, but the numbers will go up. Why would that go up? One has to understand that and one has to prepare for that. Why would the numbers go up? Polio, it's a huge achievement for mankind. We've been able to reduce it, and globally, just 2 countries are left where it is still. That brings us to the question. So in India, polio is eradicated. We should be having a huge reduction in the number of disabled. No, there is a new polio on the block, and that is cerebral palsy. With improving maternal care, with improving ICU care, more and more premature children are surviving. More and more low birth weight children are surviving. More and more critically injured children are surviving. More and more disabled are able to survive the acute care problems and therefore are there in the society seeking an equal existence like the rest of the society. There becomes your challenge. Your numbers will go up. Don't be worried. Madam showed the slide with increase. Yes, that could also be because your survey has become better. You're capturing more patients with disability. You have more number of surveyors. Your ASHA volunteers doing a better job. That's one, capturing more. But the other could also be that the numbers, because of more survival among the critically ill, is also contributing to a percentage of disabled. So we have to prepare for that. So we have to prepare in our society. So when you go, for example, in a European or a US nation, what is striking? Reserved parking space for the disabled. Then we think that they're probably more sensitive. No, that's not the reason. An Indian is equally sensitive. What is the problem is the political mileage that a disabled person is more if they are more in numbers. So there are more people with disabled, there are more disabled groups, more solidarity groups, more advocacy that happens, and therefore the political system is now challenged by the solidarity groups to do something for them. So it's not that a person in the US or Europe is more sensitive, it's just that as the numbers go up, we'll have a demand coming up, and we are reaching that stage as we have economically improved, we are having that. So this is something which you have to understand. That's the first part. So the numbers will go up, we have to prepare for that. Okay, so what we have to understand is what they are expecting from us. What is the person with disability and his family expecting from us? I would request others to please mute their mic because there's a lot of disturbance coming. So what are they expecting from us? They're expecting that they should have easy access. They should have a care that allows them to have the highest level of function based on their capacity. Functional rehabilitation to the highest level possible for this. So this is what is most important in their understanding. We always thought that as globalization improves across the nations, things would become better and better for people, not only with ordinary health needs, but with special health needs. Unfortunately, reality has not been so. It has only led to globalization, has only led to inequality. Globalization has only led to power groups lobbying and working only for those power groups. And if you look at, as Madam mentioned, about the sustainable development goals, you have very clear goals. And the number one is poverty. Poverty, that's important. And somewhere down the line, 16 number is peace. Peace and security of the human being. So before you can have access healthcare, peace and security in the community is equally important. In war-torn nations, that becomes a challenge. In disturbed areas, that becomes a challenge. In rioted affected areas, that becomes a challenge. So we have to ensure that the disabled are able to access care irrespective of the peace and security in the community that they are belonging to. Again, when I said it is a continuum of care, I always love to talk about prevention. We have to start from prevention, and the input for prevention has to come from the healthcare system, because the healthcare system knows what are the types of problems that are commonly seen among the children that are accessing healthcare facilities. Why is it important? Because it is important to prioritize those facilities that are required to the maximum number. So your public health demands that we provide care to the maximum number in the most effective and in the most efficient way. So it is important to understand the type and the nature of disability that is there. And as I mentioned earlier, in our societies, when I go across the country to postgraduates in orthopedics, What I find striking is earlier, as a postgraduate, we were all skilled in training and understanding and learning and operating polio patients. Today, that skill set is gone. But have the number of polio patients gone? No, they are still there. So that leaves only a few people with gray hairs like me who know how to handle polio. They are not familiar. But the new polio on the block, the cerebral palsy children, their numbers are huge. But the number of competent orthopedic surgeons, number of competent pediatricians who are able to take care of these cerebral palsy children, and that is a huge spectrum from monoplegia, hemiplegia, diplegia, quadriplegia, complete dependency, GMFCS, 5. The full spectrum is there, and people do not know how to handle them. And healthcare infrastructure, I have patients who come to me with dislocated hip with cerebral palsy. The standard of care today for cerebral palsy, quadriplegic is annual hip screening. And that is not being followed across the country in all institutions because the healthcare providers are not familiar with the standard of care. The standard of care has become an international norm starting from the Swedish registry, where it has become the norm. Spina bifida, which when you look at the RBSK data, I'm not privy to the latest data. The RBSK data, the number one problem that you have in the birth defect section, the defect section, is the cardiac problem. The number two is spina bifida. Spina bifida is a preventable condition. We need to prevent this condition by giving preconception folic acid. So there has to be a concerted action to prevent this in the healthcare system, and the message should go across to the other communities that are dealing with societies where these numbers are there of spina bifida children. So primary preconception folic acid can eliminate spina bifida, which is what has happened in Europe and US. They have eliminated spina bifida, whereas we have a large number of children with spina bifida. It's a preventable condition. And then there are conditions like clubfoot. I deal with clubfoot children. All kinds of clubfoot children come to me, but many of them come late. Whereas early treatment, they have a normal life, completely normal. We have a football team of children treated with clubfoot. Everything is normal, but the technique is very simple, doesn't need surgery, can be done at the most peripheral level. And if it is done at the peripheral level, in fact, in US, UK, and Australia, and in other countries in Africa also, it's been scaled down from the orthopedic surgeon to the medical officer to the physiotherapist who is doing the casting. Simple casting, simple surgery. And I still remember the expression of that child who was a 6-year-old boy. 6-year-old boy who had clubfoot, not treated properly, had a residual deformity. He couldn't walk properly. I treated him, and the expression that he said still rings in my ears. At the end of the treatment, his foot looked normal. He was excited, and he said, "Ab mere dost banenge." I was shocked. He said, "Ab mere, now I'll make friends." I said, "Don't you have friends?" "No, Doctor Saab. दोस्त आते हैं सब आगे निकल जाते हैं मैं पीछे रह जाता हूँ मैं बैठा रहता हूँ I keep sitting at the back. I can't make friends. Inclusiveness, healthcare delivery by giving care at the most peripheral level. And when I go to community, the medical colleges, regional medical colleges in other states, and I have these village children coming to me with clubfoot and mothers, when I ask them, I can make out they're very poor. I ask them, कितने दूर से आए हो? साहब 500 रुपए दूर से आए हैं. Distances are measured in रुपए, not in time, not in kilometers. सर 500 किलोमीटर 500 रुपए दूर से आए हैं. एक जने का 500 रुपए का किराया लगता है बस का. हम इतना नहीं कर सकते हैं, बार बार नहीं आ सकते हैं, एक हफ्ते में नहीं आ सकते हैं. So therefore it is important at the most peripheral level, district early intervention centers like was planned of the RBSK should be encouraged. Holistic care for all kinds of childhood problems can be and should be delivered. Again, injuries are a neglected area. Why is it a neglected area? I say this because we keep thinking that educating people to behavior change, to a safe behavior will reduce injuries. No, it doesn't reduce injuries because education, fortunately, for behavior change is a difficult agenda. Therefore, the focus is to design change. So if you go to a safe country like Sweden, they have a vision zero where they do not accept a death, a traffic injury. And if you talk to the slum dwellers, they'll tell you their biggest worry in their entire life is to and fro from their slum to their place of work. That's because they're afraid their child will play on the road, die. They will travel to work and they will die because of their worry is that. So it is important that we accept their existence and make a friendly city and not a car friendly city. Everything that we do in our cities today, the smart cities that we say, are all friendly activities. It is not meant for the people. The pavements, the sidewalks, the speed, all those things are car friendly activities. Easy. We want the pedestrian to climb up and down. But the person who just needs to push the accelerometer of a fancy car 2 millimeters and will jump from 60 to 80 kilometers and will fly away. Whereas this poor disabled person, he has to limp upwards or carried upwards, uphill or downhill on staircases, and underpasses have to be used. Try crossing even my hospital, the barricade, to reach my hospital from the bus stop opposite. It is impossible. It is impossible. And I have been pleading with red lights for access to my hospital. They agreed. I talked to the minister, I talked to everyone. They agreed in principle, we will have it. They put up the red lights, but the police overruled it. No, we can't have so many red lights in the same street at less than 1 kilometer distance. So the car friendliness is the important thing, not people friendliness for access to healthcare. Inclusive access means you have to allow around the hospital. Even today, all the Institute of Medical Sciences, something hospital, an accident happening in other side of South Extension, to get to that area in Aldi Institute will take you at least 20 minutes. It will take time because you made it difficult for people on the walk to get there. It's important for us to recognize these people-friendly healthcare access-free facility to the hospitals and create within the hospital also barrier-free environment. And I'll tell the story. Barriers are not just physical barriers, but also the barriers of passing through the systems in the hospital. I'll tell the story. I'm sorry, I'll take a little extra time. I seek your indulgence in that because I have stories to tell and I have speak from the heart. COVID epidemic was on and there was a blind couple that needed care for their parents in the hospital. So they requested, can we get into the hospital straight away? So bed was a problem, everybody had a problem. But they were afraid of getting through the queue. They said, we won't be able to do it, we'll need help. So I spoke to the doctors concerned. The doctor then talked to the CMO. All systems were taken care of. And I said, okay, it took me about 3 hours to arrange all that. They knew me and I accessed and told them this will be done. Despite that, the family finally decided it may still not work despite all the help of Dr. Matthew. You will have problems. They decided they'll allow their father to die at home in peace, surrounded by relatives. So the acceptance that they will have difficulty, the understanding that access to care to the hospital may be a problem, you have patients accepting the worst case scenario and accepting even death of their loved parents in that situation. So that was a problem. Again, if you go outside a hospital, there will be 1 or 2 wheelchairs. The other wheelchairs are not acceptable. Even in the hospital, again, I learned this during the COVID phase. The admission was a problem. So I was guiding 2 blind people on COVID. They had COVID, so they knew me. They called me up. This is another family. They called me up and I called them up. You follow up every day, morning and evening phone call. And I asked them, will you be able to identify the medicines? Sir, hum feel kar lete hain. We feel for the medicines. We feel for the medicines. So isolation is there. Outsiders can come there. How do you then identify the medicine that you're taking? As luck would have it, I saw her subsequently. She recovered fully, came to my hospital for something else, and I saw her using the code for a Paytm. You can use a QR code. Yes, she said. Yes, it is possible to use that. So she used the QR code. I said, then I know the solution for your problem during COVID time, the solution for your medicines. So if you see this medicine at one end of the, I hope you can see that, you can see the manufacturing date, but if this is torn off, nowhere else is the manufacturing date there. And if you have another medicine, if you have torn off this, nothing is there. You don't even know the tablet size. What is there? You have no idea. There are some medicines with QR code there only on one side. However, the commercial name of the drug appears on every tablet. So suddenly I realized if on every tablet being given in the hospital, again, everything is in English, nothing is in the vernacular, nothing is there in Hindi. So no medicine given to an outpatient or an inpatient. The inpatient, you're supposed to be given the medicine and the nurse is supposed to put in your mouth. But because of the rush, ground realities are different. The patients are given the medicine, you eat the medicine. So if she may take the wrong dose or the wrong, the timing may be different. She may not understand the medicine being taken wrongly. So what we recommended was a QR code opposite every one of the. So this side, if you see, of the strip is completely bare. Opposite each tablet, if you have a QR code, that will make it easy, make it mandatory on every smartphone to have QR code read. And the minimum 8 things to be read in the QR code. And that will allow inclusiveness for drug delivery, drug access, and also safety of medicines to be given. That is, first thing is all companies would want the commercial name, then the generic name, then the tablet size, then the batch number. Because if complications are there, you can trace the backing date. I don't know the expiry date. I will discard this strip. Millions of doses of drugs are wasted and wrong medicines are taken by not just, even I need to use a magnifying glass to read what is written there. Imagine a senior citizen who is like that, somebody who doesn't understand English, how does he supposed to make out? He's supposed to memorize, intellectually impaired. How does he access that? It's not possible. So voice activated smartphones, which are disabled friendly, should be the standard of care for people to access good health care. It is important that you have that. Coming to the next level of assistive products. So WHO, under the GATE scheme, has the assistive products list of about 50 drugs, 50 assistive products, the orthotics and prosthetics and the full works. But when you look at the availability, how many of these people who need the assistive products are able to access it? They just don't exist. And even if they exist, the quality doesn't happen. It is not there. The quality assistive products are not there. They're not being manufactured also in sufficient numbers to be accessible. And if you look at the assistive products, very few medical colleges, very few hospitals have an assistive products unit. It should be mandatory for all medical colleges. It should be mandatory for all secondary, tertiary, and quaternary care facility, at least a tertiary and quaternary, it's not secondary, tertiary and quaternary care, to have access to assistive products without privatizing. It's completely privatized now. That's a big problem. Privatization, of course, you can have a national insurance scheme where you can make sure this is available. But if it is a pre-existing condition like spina bifida, usually they are excluded. But the government is doing things to make sure that these things are accessible. Once they get to know about this thing, they're increasingly changing the allocation for many people, which is a very good sign. But this needs to be proactively looked at. Then this whole problem about digital dark age that has come up for many communities, particularly very poor ones. Their children, I did a survey during, again, the time, which was a challenging time, of course, which is a special situation, but it gives us a feel of majority of people, 3 children in the family, 1 smartphone, only one can attend class, others can't. So we need to decide that. But the same goes for healthcare also. To access healthcare, many of the systems use the smartphone enabled applications. So therefore, it is an important imperative that those that are outside of the digital system for healthcare should be allowed enabling environment. Once they reach a hospital, there should be a special officer taking care of, special assistant to take care of their digital guidance for access to them. So it's important. And again, I'll get to the next level, that quaternary care for many of these patients are a challenge. Why? For example, scoliosis. I have many patients with scoliosis, with spina bifida, with other scoliosis patients, with the surgery costs anywhere from 8 lakhs to 15 lakhs. Early onset scoliosis, surgical intervention, special growth modulations, and all are very expensive. How do you access them? One area which is really poorly managed is the bladder management in paraplegics, tetraplegics, and spina bifida patients. Bladder management. The bladder management is only the domain of urologists. How many urologists are available? So we need to plan for the increasing number of needs of quadriplegic, tetraplegic because of road traffic injuries, and make sure that they're accessible and available, and also make sure that death rate from paraplegia, quadriplegia is predominantly because of the renal failure from poor urinary tract management. Therefore, to prevent that and to have a normal lifestyle, you need to make sure that paraplegia, quadriplegics, and patients with special bladder needs are taken care of. Inclusive rehabilitation will make sure that these are taken care of. But then again, the special needs that are there to take care of these is another issue. How do you access them? How do you get the special facilities that are due to disabled? That is based on a disability certificate. And many years back, almost 20 years back, I was put into a committee to look at the disability certification. And disability certification is a challenge for persons with disability. If you don't have a disability certificate, you can't access special needs privileges that are given in educational institutions, in employment exchanges, and other benefits. So disability certification is a big need. But the access to disability certification is extremely difficult. You need to have, for example, if you have intellectual impairment with physical impairment, you need to have your IQ tested, you need to go to a neurologist, you need to go to an orthopedic surgeon, and then there is a board that gives you the date. So if your admission date for schooling is coming in the near 2 months, you're going to lose 1 year of education because his turn will come only next, because certificate will come only next year. It will not come this year. The long dates that they get. So there is a way of simplifying it. And I had said that it should be possible within the domain of a school teacher to certify that child having disability, that this child is disabled and therefore needs special care, therefore needs inclusive education, or whatever, any number of times I am writing to principal, please accept. What do the principals say? They say, we are not responsible for anything going wrong with the child. You give it in writing, then I'll admit the child. Which parent will take that writing, give it in writing? No parent will do that. So I keep writing as a healthcare provider, any number of children, this child is safe to be in a classroom. You're not providing inclusive education unless the healthcare system can provide a simplified disability certification process. And it is possible, it is doable. It can be done by a school teacher, doesn't have to go to and block the time of experts who should be busy doing other things in healthcare. So access will improve if you change the power structure for giving of disability certificates. So it has to be in a different manner. Again, what many people don't know, I guide them that look, you can take a tax rebate. Oh, I didn't know that, sir. You can get a tax rebate. People who are in businesses, not very educated, they don't know that they can get tax benefit because their child has got a special need. They do not know that. They don't know the privileges. They do not know so the empowerment for access will depend on somebody guiding them. So it should be an automatic. Once you're registered, there is a problem here. The health ministry and the Ministry of Social Justice Empowerment, they are completely different areas. So my recommendation for simplification for the disability certification process went to the Ministry of Social Justice and Empowerment, approved there. Went to the ministry, somebody there did not agree with it. Then it was put down into a locker, into a cupboard. Nothing happened. So disability certification remains a challenge. So access not just to healthcare, but also to many other societal needs is an important thing that is need to be understood and planned for. So your whole approach has to be based on that. Again, in my polio survey that I did, what did I find? Every girl child with polio or every boy child with polio was educated only to the level to which the local village had a school. Village school level. So if the village had a primary school, the child is educated only a primary school. If the village had a secondary school, child is educated only up to a secondary school. Why? Because access becomes improved. Village roads do not allow wheelchair access. Transportation is too expensive, so they can't access it. So even if I write that this child needs special transport as a healthcare provider, access becomes an issue, and therefore they are backward in their education level also. So your physical challenge leads to an educational challenge, leads to a social challenge, leads to a disability. So when you read about these things, you understand what Stephen Hawking said. He said, I'm very lucky in many ways. I think when it comes to reaching out to everyone, you need to take this luck factor out. You need to create a system and a policy to ensure that every child achieves the fullest potential that is required for that child. I'll stop here. Thank you very much for the opportunity. I apologize for taking so long.
Thank you so much, Dr. Varghese, for sharing those powerful, wonderful stories. Now I will make friends. That is true not only for children with disabilities, but I personally faced that in my medical college while battling post-polio maladies. And thank you for putting the focus back on people with invisible disabilities and mentioning the national list of essential and assistive products and giving your recommendations on disability certifications. With that, we move on to the next speaker. Our next speaker is Ms. Mekhala Jayanti Sagar, who is a Master's in Social Work and MPhil. She's a Disability Research Officer at the Welfare of Disabled and Senior Citizens, Government of Telangana. She also worked as a Senior Research Associate at IIPH Hyderabad, as well as State Manager at LV Prasad Eye Institute. So over to you, Dr. Jayanti Sagar.
Thank you, Dr. Satyendra ji, and good evening to all. Thank you for briefing me about my introduction, and I would like to share, because already Indumati ma'am and Matthew sir has taken few points from my slides and they have given a very brief explanation. So I'll be going in a very short, whatever the government been providing the schemes and services at Telangana state. So as like according to 1995 Act, we have only 7 disability, whereas RPWD Act 2016, we got 21 categories. So the disability definition which RPWD Act 2016 has given, like a person with a disability means a person with a long-term physical, mental, intellectual or sensory impairment, which in interaction with barriers, hindrance is full and effective participation in society. Whereas not less than 40% of any disability has certified by the medical authority. So the person, those will be having 40% disability, they will be getting the disability certificate. The statistics which we have taken from the Telangana state, like as per census 2011, there are 10,46,000 persons with a disability being identified in Telangana state. In that, we have given around 8,85,080 disability certificate or issued through Sadram software. This is the software where Telangana and Andhra has this software where we can do the assessment through medical department, and the Panchayat Raj department will be providing the certificate. So this certificate process recently, I mean till last year, it was a huge camps were conducted, and a lot of people being waited in a long queue. So we want to reduce that process. So the Telangana state has taken up an initiative by conducting, like, they have to go and get a slot done at Me Seva. So once the slot been taken from Me Seva, on the day which they have got the date to do the assessment, the candidate has to go on the same day to get the assessment being done. And within a month, the persons will be getting the Sadram certificate. So this is a transparency being done at Telangana state. And also we have started including 21 category as per the Government of India GO 5 guidelines. We have developed the other 11 categories of disability into the software with the help of the medical team. So we can see the latest data which Sadram certificate has been given. I have given according to the category wise, like locomotor disability, you can see around 5 lakhs population got certificate, and hearing impairment 76,000, whereas mentally ill 39,000, mentally retarded 89,000, visually impairment 99,000, and multiple disability we have given 3,200. So you can see the people with a disability face barriers in all areas of life. We can see in education, employment opportunity, whereas social and political life, and there is barriers in community participation, and also barrier in health system. So to come up with those barriers, we have implemented few schemes and services been implemented in Telangana state. I'll be explaining each scheme, like pre-metric scholarship. This scholarship being sanctioned to disabled students studying up to 10th class in government or government aided recognized schools, and whose parental or guardian income is less than 1 lakh. Whereas post-metric scholarship being sanctioned to OC disabled students pursuing intermediate and above courses, and whose parental or guardian is income is less than 1 lakh. And whereas economic rehabilitation scheme, these schemes being provided for livelihood opportunity for the persons with a disability. So government has sanctioned 50,000 to up to 5 lakhs to set up his own self-employment. And whereas marriage incentive award, this award being started to mainstream the person with a disability in the society and enable them to lead a normal life, and also to encourage the normal person to marry the person with a disability. So those will be getting married with a disabled person. The government is providing 1 lakh incentives for these people. So they have to provide all the certificates through in a proper channel. And also we have aids and appliance scheme, which we will be providing the aids and appliances on free of cost. So in detail, I'll be explaining in next slide what are the appliances we are providing for different categories. Whereas Asara pension, this is the state where giving a huge pension like 3,016 rupees for persons with a disability per month. And we also having housing scheme like a double bedroom for disabled person. We have a 4% reservation for providing this double bedroom flats. And also we have one more scheme on Kalyana Lakshmi Shadi Mubarak. This is only for giving for Muslim disabled person around 1 lakh to 1.5 lakhs on as an cash incentives. And as sir said, like a disability certificate, disability certificate is a main aim to get the avail of the government schemes and services across India. Without a disability certificate, it's very difficult to get these services being taken from the government sector. And also we are providing the Arogyasri facility at the government hospitals where they can get avail about all the health services free of cost. And also providing cochlear implant surgeries, minor corrective surgeries, and also the services being provided on the educational system. I'll be explaining in detail in next slides regarding the employment opportunities, skill development, and job mela. These are the services being provided in Telangana state. So as I said, the aids and appliances, this department is providing following prosthetic and mobility and educational aids to persons with a disability to improve their quality of life. So here we can see like calipers, artificial limbs, and tricycle, wheelchair, crutches, motorized vehicles, all this been given for locomotor disability. Whereas for hearing impairment, we are providing hearing aids, smartphones. Those who are in educational field, for them, we are providing the smartphones. And also for visually impairment people, we are providing walking sticks and smart canes. And for those who are doing the PhD, disability person, those who are pursuing their PhD, for them, we are providing the laptops and MP3 players and Braille textbooks also. So last year, we have provided around 24 crores of assistive aids and appliances across Telangana state. So mainly we have provided the retrofitted motorized vehicle and motor vehicles for the muscular dystrophy patients and locomotor disability persons. So we can see some of the challenges to avail the schemes. So what happened if the PWD is not aware of about schemes and services? So these are the challenges where we have identified like a deprivation of benefits and undue delay. There is an impact on future life and empowerment process, and they will develop their attitude indifferently towards government because government is not providing any schemes if they are not aware about all this process. Enhancement of complexity. So to avail these challenges, so we have come out some limitations and solutions. If we can go category wise, you can see like a physical impairment. If we have certain disabilities like locomotor, leprosy cured, CP, dwarfism, muscular dystrophy, and acid attack. For these people, they have a mobility issue. To avail any government schemes or services, so they like for them, it's very difficult to come to the departments. So for them, we have developed a toll-free number. The toll-free number I'll be sharing in another slide. So from any village or remote area, they can call to the toll-free number for any help they can ask to our callers. So from there, we will be we will be sharing those information to the other departments. We also come up with 2 websites on departmental websites. We have State Commissioner website. We have a mobile codes in our department. Those who want to apply any RTI or anything, they can apply through State Commissioner website. And also we are creating a barrier-free environment across government buildings as Government of India has given an Accessible India campaign project. Based on that, we are working towards government buildings to make as an accessible barrier-free environment. And also we are providing the assistive aids and appliances as I have discussed in previous slides. For locomotor, we are giving crutches and retrofit a motorized vehicle. And for different kind of impairments, we are providing the different aids and appliances. As we can see, for visual impairment, they have a limitations on vision. For them, we are providing the doorsteps, the services, and also we are providing the materials to their home. Like we have gotten UDID cards from Government of India, and people can't come and get those UDID cards. So we have we have collaborated with Women and Child Department, and through Anganwadi teachers, we are providing that UDID cards to their doorsteps. And for hearing impairment, we can see deaf and hard of hearing persons, and they have a communication problem. So to rectify this communication problem, we have hired a sign language interpreter in our department to explain the services and to help them what are the information they required. And also through websites, we are creating the sign language videos, so that even sign language interpreter, even hearing impairment people can also get those information in detail. And also once we'll get the toll-free call, so we are accepting the video call facility for the hearing impairment. And we can see the speech and language disability. We have hired a special educators to help to speech and language persons. And for intellectual disability, because of intellectual disability, their incomplete development of mind. So we are helping them in creating a legal guardianship certificates to these people, so that they can get the services in easily from the government sector. And we have As we know, in 21 disability, in 7 disability, we are gathering the 11 categories, whereas in blood disorders is the new category which has been identified recently. And for this blood disorders, regular blood transmission should be there. So we have hired in hospitals where these people can get the blood transmission information easily. So all these things to solve these issues, so we have to have an awareness program through print media, electronic media, and social media. So as I said, like inclusive development in Telangana, we are providing free education from 3 to 18 years with all government entitlements in barrier-free environment. And also we have school readiness program, like we are inclusive educational resource center across Telangana in 33 districts, and we have inclusive educational resource persons been visiting in all Telangana 33 districts. So we also have the teachers in normal schools were trained for special training program, teachers training program being conducted regularly. And we also have the teaching and learning material kit were available in all schools. And we also facilitating home-based education for severely and profound children with a disability. As we know, like 5% reservation in higher education with age relaxation being done here in Telangana state. And on employment opportunity, 4% reservation in employment or employment being provided. And we also providing the skill development training program. We have done with MOU with 3 national institutes, and regularly the skill development programs is being conducted. And once the training been done, they have been placed in a MNC companies or any or small scale industry companies. They have been placed in the different companies. And also regularly we are conducting the job mela. We also organizing a sensitization workshop for private companies, because many private companies, they know that they have to hire persons with a disability, but they are lack of awareness, like they don't know how to handle those people and what kind of facility being provided. So we also conducting a sensitization workshop for these companies. And we're also providing the subsidized loan for setting up a small scale business. So as I said, like Accessible India campaign project, we are conducting all accessible features, accessible buildings across Telangana. So we all in 3 phases, we have taken Hyderabad metropolitan city. In first phase, we are developing all government buildings as an accessible, and in second phase, we are going into a district wise. So we are coordinating with the district collectors to make all the government building accessible. And in tertiary level, like we are going in a remote area where MRO offices and other PSC centers being made accessible. And also we are coordinating with the transport department to make all the bus facilities and metro stations to be accessible. And we also are working towards IT department to make all the government websites accessible, so that it can be easily accessible for all kind of disabled persons to look into the websites and to apply for any for further education or for job opportunities also. So overall, overall the outcome of this scheme, like how many beneficiary got benefited out of these schemes, like economic rehabilitation scheme, around 758 beneficiary got benefited, and marriage incentives, around 400 people got benefited out of this. And we have provided 700 students got a scholarship for pre-metric, and for 1,000 people got students got post-metric scholarship, and around 19,000 disabled persons got free aids and appliances across Telangana state. And also we have trained 350 disabled persons on skill development training program, and also now the placement is going on. And as I said, like to apply all these schemes, we have these websites where TSOBMMS, it's a Telangana State Online Beneficiary Management Monitoring System. This is a website where they can apply economic rehabilitation scheme and also marriage incentive scheme, so that they should not have any duplication, and majority, all the people can avail these services. So in across Telangana, even in remote area, they can apply by opening this website. Under ePass, the scholarship, post and pre-matric scholarships can be applied. Whereas we have, because this department is not only looking for disabled, and also we are looking for senior citizen. Across Telangana, we have 266 old age homes. So regular monitoring inspection being done across Telangana. So once the inspection being done, the inspection report being applied in the evaluation app. And UDID acknowledgement, once after distributing this UDID card to the concerned disabled person at the doorsteps, once the UDID can be taken from the beneficiary, then they will be taking the selfie and they will be putting into a app, so that everything can be as a transparent. This is the toll-free number which we were taking up in Telangana, like for persons with a disability, 1800-572-89880. And for senior citizen, 14567. These are the helplines. It will be working from morning 8 to evening 8, and all kind of services and whatever the information they require, we are providing from our department. So as I said, equity equal to equal opportunity. It's not only a government has to do all these schemes, but we have to work as a public and private partnership. So we also very closely working with all NGOs and national institutes to come up and to reach out to the grassroots level, and all these services can avail to the to improve their society. And thank you for giving me opportunity, Dr. Sunanda ma'am, and thank you to our director and commissioner for sharing these government schemes and services in this panel. And thank you so much for IACP team for providing this opportunity.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Jayanti, for sharing those valuable information as well as the Telangana model. We now move on to our last speaker, Dr. Neelam Sodhi. So
sorry, Jayanti ji, can you stop share so that I can just put on my screen? Thank you. Please, Dr. Satyendra, go ahead.
Yeah. So Dr. Neelam Sodhi is obstetrician and gynecologist and currently in private practice. She led the development of the North India Cerebral Palsy Association to advocate, and Ashirwad to support and provide services to children and adults with developmental disabilities in Ludhiana, Punjab. So over to you, ma'am.
Thank you. Just give me 1 second. Okay, you can see my screen.
Very well.
Right. And of course, you can't see my presenter notes, I hope.
No.
Thank you. Good evening to everybody. Thank you, Dr. Sunanda, for enabling all of us participants of the inclusion group of Mission Watchwords to share our experiences in whatever way best we can. I've had eminent speakers go ahead of me, and now I'm going to present something different, something that I have been working with since 2016. I am an associate faculty at Keystone Institute India. It is Keystone Institute India which brought the concept of social role valorization in 2016. And as I take you through this journey very quickly, you'll understand that this is something that we all have been doing in our lives. And we understand the importance of it. There are so many things which we have done unconsciously, which maybe perhaps this gives us a glimpse into what can be done. And this is just another aspect of moving towards inclusion. Sorry. So when you search for how do you promote disability inclusion, this is what you get right at the top. View the disability community as valuable. Isn't that what exactly is behind the whole thing, the mindset and the perception that the disability community is not valuable. Now, human perceptual processes are by nature evaluative. So everything we perceive is evaluated either negatively or positively, and that influences our behavior. I want to ask each of you to think, is there something like neutral perception? You look at something, some individual, and are totally not affected by it, and your mind doesn't immediately make an impression about that individual. But when we view an individual or a group as valuable, we are more likely to want them around us. We all want the good things in life for ourselves, and we are more likely to want the good things for those also who we consider as valuable. So human perception is always evaluative. It's either negative or positive. It's never neutral. But when people are viewed as different, they are likely to be segregated and thought of as less than. People with disabilities, okay, since I'm co-host and it's my responsibility to mute, people with disabilities have been down history, relegated to institutions, segregated from societies, and they live in congregated settings. Some have totally few interactions with people without disabilities beyond their family.
Nilamji, we can't hear you. You're muted yourself.
Hello.
Sorry, I think along with everybody, I got muted.
No problems.
Yeah. So, sorry. We all want the good things in life, don't we? And that holds true for just about everybody. And what are these good things in life? Health, safety, friendship, a place to call home, lifelong learning, meaningful work, love, freedom, respect, recognition, money, a good vocation, marriage, companionship, family. And it is in this place that when the perception of society and the good things of life meet, we get to social role valorization. Dr. Wolfensberger proposed this theory, which helps us not only understand the ways in which people with disabilities are viewed and harmed by society, but it also provides guidance on how to promote fully inclusive living. It is a social science framework based on the idea that within any given society, some attributes and by association, some people are valued more highly than others. The roles that people have are also valued differently. A basic tenet of role valorizing efforts is the notion that the good things any society has to offer are more easily accessible to people who have valued social roles. What is the meaning of roles? We'll see in the oncoming slides. Conversely, people who have devalued social roles or have very few roles or marginally valued ones, they have a much harder time obtaining the good things of life, which are more easily available to those who have a valued social status. Therefore, valued social roles and the positive status that typically attends them are a key to obtaining the benefits inherent in any given culture. So social role valorization is based on the ideas of both social devaluation as well as valued social roles. Social role valorization begins with establishing the existence of devaluation. John Armstrong said, devaluation is the name given to the negative judgment made by others about the relative worth of another person or class. So technically, the definition is the attribution of low or even no value to a person or group by another person or group on the basis of some characteristic which has been perceived as negatively significant by the perceiver, or we can here say the devaluer. Devaluation is not about people's inherent worth, because what is valued in society is this list telling you. But it is not about people's inherent worth, but their perceived worth. That is, it is in the eyes and minds of others. When they are thought of as less than, then the devaluation starts. And if this list, which you can read, is what society places a value on, then we know that which are the people who are more likely to be devalued. So then what happens? It is not just an individual who is devalued, but it also happens on a large societal scale where a whole group of valued citizens might devalue an entire other group of people. It is this kind of devaluation that does the most damage, because once this happens, then it just becomes a cycle, and then the whole group of people who are associated with that attribute will receive very poor treatment at the hands of society. John Armstrong said that bad treatment has many universal features, and it is so detrimental that Dr. Wolfensberger used the metaphor of wounds to describe the effect that devaluation has. So let me quickly run through the wounds of devaluation. People are not seen as individuals. They are seen as impairment. And how many times you must have had somebody come up and tell you, my daughter is CP, or how many times in an organization they say, oh, down babies have come. वो LD है, she is mental, wheelchair person, अरे उस गूंगे को बुला कर लाओ. This is how people are addressed. They are not seen as themselves. They are not seen as Tom, Dick, or John, but they are seen as their impairment. They are rejected. And don't we all know about this? They are cast into devalued roles, and there are stereotypical devalued roles, and there is a whole list of these devalued roles. People are seen as non-human, as animals, vegetables, objects, or aliens. What is the treatment that is given to an animal? What is the treatment that is given to an vegetable? It is chopped, it is put away. What is the treatment that might have been given to an object, especially an object which you do not dearly love? People are seen as non-human. They are seen as menace or objects of fear. And why has this come? Because it is a role perpetuated by society that they will come and hit you. They have no control over themselves. They are a threat to the other people living, the so-called normal people living in society. They're waste material. Why do you even want to bother about this? What is this child ever going to give you? This child is not going to grow up into anything. Why do you want to even do anything about this? And this is a rhetoric which we have heard all across in all the organizations that we work, when we complain that parents do not take an active participation in what benefits their children. Object of ridicule. Ridicule how? In school, a child who has, say, a learning disability or has cerebral palsy and cannot walk properly is made fun of. That horror ridicule, or also seen as a person who is capable of evoking laughter, what we see in social media or what we have traditionally been seeing in movies in India and even across the world. Object of pity, that bechara. When you ask anybody, a general group of people, what do you think about, what comes first to your mind when you see a person with disability? I think 90% of the times, the first statement that is said is bechara, helpless. You want to take pity on them. You want to go out and help them. Your heart goes out to them. Burden of charity. You are here because we are providing donations, and that object of pity and the burden of charity combined together, and so many organizations misuse this role to get funds for themselves. You are a burden on others. To kuch bhi nahi hai, you are a boj. We need to do so much for you. And isn't that how medical professionals also talk about when they ask parents to go for testing, and then they say that if there is an anomaly found, or even genetic defect that is found, when the counseling, how does the counseling happen? The counseling comes from the mindset of the person who's doing that counseling, and always is projected as burden on the family, burden on society, eternal child, or child once again. When you are looking at an individual with disability as an eternal child, can you ever think of them as doing something good or bigger in life? Can you make expectations for them? Can you plan futures for them? Can you involve them in activities which are not their age now because they have grown beyond that age? Would you call them respectfully? Would you call them or talk to them in anything but, oh, mera bacha, so that eternal child? And it is so detrimental because in the mind of the devaluer, when you have cast them into that role of eternal child, you're never going to see any future. You're never going to expect anything for that individual, and it will be perpetuated. That role will be perpetuated because you will be doing only those activities that you would do with a child or for a child. A wholly innocent, maybe not the correct platform, but I do want to say that this term that we have in our country, it's Divyangjan. Divyangjan means somebody that is holy. So does it really fit? A client forever for everything. One therapist to another therapist, to another therapist, one doctor to another doctor, to another doctor, a client for services. You and I have been clients. We go to the bank, we go to buy something, we are clients, we get services, we need help, we need support. But they are viewed as not being able to do anything for themselves, as clients for somebody else forever, sick or diseased. And it is this role of sick, which comes from the medical model of disability, which again does not allow a person with disability to be viewed as having potential. Once my child will start walking, only then I can put my child in school. He is unable to walk. Why? Because he's sick. And because he's sick, he cannot be seen in the role of a student. My child cannot hear. How can he study? He is sick. He is diseased. And because of that, society does not want to change itself because the onus is on the person. You are sick, you have to get well, you have to become better. The society does not take the blame for creating an environment which makes that individual not able to come up to his or her full potential. And how many times have we heard this? Tu to mar jaye to zyada acha hai. Being labeled, there is loss of control of one's own life and reputation. Disruption of relationships, no friends, family, community, shifted from one place to another. And Dr. Varghese told us, I mean, it was such a poignant moment when he said, the boy said, ab mere dost banenge. We take it for granted, friends, we take for granted, and they are such a huge missing factor in their lives, their lifetime clients. So ultimately, people who are devalued get subjected to all sorts of discrimination and abuse. People are very likely to be poor throughout their lives, being kept dependent on individual service providers or agencies, moved from place to place, heavily controlled for the convenience of others, and even years of wasted time and even a wasted life. Low expectations are a critical element of life wasting. And when once someone's identity is reduced to that of an impairment, then viewpoints become fixed about what you are capable of, where you can go, can't go, who you belong with, what you can do, what you need, who you are. The whole life course is charted by somebody just on the basis of that. So having seen the devaluation, we now come to the guidance on how to promote fully inclusive living. And it is based on this thing in red, the social role. What is a social role? It is a pattern of socially expected expectations or beliefs, behaviors, responsibilities, and privileges. And these are as conceptualized by people in a social situation. Social roles convey the value a person has in society. It defines how we are known by others, who we are, the place, the status we hold in society. I am a doctor, mother, teacher, and what we become over our lifetime. And valued roles are the keys to the good things of life for everyone, as they influence the way people are seen and treated. And what do these valued roles bring us? They bring us everything that we want, our image in our eyes and those in that of the other's eyes. It brings opportunities, a full lifestyle, a good reputation, belonging, acceptance, friends, material possessions, and opportunity to contribute, relationships, ability to have the freedom to choose, personal growth. And now I'm going to come to the definition of social role valorization. So we have seen devaluation. We have also seen how people are perceived by others and therefore they are devalued. We've seen that being in a good role, something that you and I, all people in this room, this webinar, we hold, and those valued roles that we hold, they bring us so many good things. Just think of it from the moment you wake up to the time you sleep. When you get up in the morning, from that, if I were to say, I'm in the role of a mother, a cook, a driver, a doctor, a teacher, a counselor, a cleaner, and so much more. It is different roles depending on the different aspects of my life. So valued social roles are at the heart of SRV. And what is SRV? It is the enablement, establishment, enhancement, maintenance, and or defense of valued social roles for people, particularly those at value risk, by using as much as possible culturally valued means. And by culturally valued means, I mean things that we would be using for just about everybody else by using those same methods. If we think about how anyone else goes to school, if we think about how anyone gets a job, if we think about how anyone gets married, and we apply those same culturally valued means to a person who is devalued or a person who has a disability, then we are more likely to get them to the good things of life. So social role valorization specifically addresses the impact of social roles and their collectively assigned attribution upon the individual's access to resources. It puts the emphasis on valorization, or more simply, value. And SRV is so characterized by the availability of, or making the availability of, social roles, socially constructed values and expectancies, which are then related to those roles, and the effect that holding this a role has on the individual's perception of himself or herself, and also the effect that holding that role has on the society's perception of that individual. It also, so it tells us why people are devalued. It also tells us that the best ways to shift the devalued status of a person with disability are to support the person to take part and contribute in the community through valued social roles, to pay attention to the image of that person, and to also develop and increase the person's skills and competencies. My son, who has cerebral palsy, when he went to school, class 6, he was told by his teacher, I cannot teach you maths, so please learn maths at home. And that was rejection. That was segregation. He had to face a long struggle going through school, going through college, where he was repeatedly told, how can a person with cerebral palsy, how can a person who has technically 70% disability written on the disability certificate, how can such a person become an engineer? When he entered his job, he was seen not as the individual who had topped his class in a reputed institution of India, but was seen as a person with cerebral palsy and visual impairment, a person unable to meet the speed of the others in doing a task, and precisely because he was given a laptop which was smaller and his vision could not adjust to that, and he just needed the accommodation of a bigger laptop. So devaluation, devaluation, devaluation. He fought against that, and how much of that devaluation one has to fight. And today he is honored in his company as that person who can make solutions, who can bring anybody out of a sticky place, a senior software developer, his competency and his image as being seen as a person surrounded by what goes with a software developer, the language that he uses, his laptop, the way he dresses, the office that he is seen in, the company that he keeps. These are the images which surround him, and plus his competency as a software developer makes him no different from anybody else in society. Recently, his story was highlighted, and 95% of his colleagues said, oh, does he have a disability? We didn't know he had a disability. So to end, a role is associated with certain attributes. Having positive or valued roles can prevent or reduce the stigma and negative life experiences of persons with disabilities by providing access to resources, opportunities for enhanced social interaction, for developing skills and competencies, and for projecting a positive image, thereby opening the doors to social inclusion. Having valued social roles and multiple valued social roles provides more opportunities for interaction, contribution, expectancies, understanding and getting to know more positive attributes of that person, which in turn help in creating a positive perception of that individual, and can in turn lead to creating positive perceptions of a related group in society. Because the more positively an individual or group is perceived by society, more are the opportunities for inclusion. Thank you so much, everyone, for your patient hearing. And with that, I end my talk.
Thank you so much, Dr. Sodi, for that wonderful presentation and valuing the lives of people with disabilities. I am afraid because of the wonderful talks, you were so engrossed in the all 4 presentations by 4 distinguished speakers that we have already exceeded the time by 15 minutes. So already I have shared the emails of our 4 speakers in the chat box. So maybe in the interest of time, it would be nice if you can address your queries directly to the respective speakers, because or if, since this is a small group now, if you have very pertinent questions, maybe you can ask 1 question each with 1 speaker. But of course, if all other agree with that. Is it fine, Dr. Sunanda?
Yeah, I think everybody has a lot of questions, I'm sure. But because of this paucity of time, I do agree with your suggestion. And the email IDs are there. But if anybody has a quick question, please come up with it. Of course, the compliments are definitely there, a lot of them on the box. And we'll be in touch with the individual speakers. It's been a real delight for me too.
Till then,
can I ask a question, Dr. Satin Singh? Samir here.
With whom, Samir?
Dr. Matthew Varghese.
Please go ahead.
Hi, Dr. Varghese, Samir here. Nice to see you after, I guess, 10 years. Sir, my question to you is very simple. How board of doctors who go about certifying persons with disabilities calculate percentage of disability? Like in the year 2019, when I went for like I needed a new disability certificate, and they marked me as 75% disabled, whereas doctors who were like looking looking after my disability told me that you should be marked as 60 to 65% disability. So yes, if you can shed some light over it, how doctors evaluate disabilities. One doctor says something else, another doctor certify you with certain like his measurement is different. So yeah.
Thank you, Samir, for your question. Yes, Dr. Varghese.
Thank you so much. You know, Samir, good to hear you, and it's amazing. You remember that some time back I had seen you, but this is the problem. You see, if you have one disability, say cerebral palsy, you have one is a locomotor problem, ability to walk. The second is the ability to use your hands to do activities of daily living. Third is the speech problem. Fourth, which is not understood by many, is that because of the speech problem, though the child has, exactly as Dr. Neelam said, that the child may have a brilliant captive mind inside, but his ability to communicate to the outside world is limited by our stereotypes of presentation. Your assessment of that, unless it is done properly, will have a problem. So why do you classify a person a certified 60% for? It's purely for administrative reasons that you do the classification, purely for administrative, so that you have a cutoff. So my biggest problem is my disability calculation is purely anatomical to a large extent in musculoskeletal, but the others, there is such a wide gradation. He may not be good in talking. In fact, I give the example of Sam. When early on in 1990, when Dr. Shankaran organized a meeting of cerebral palsy workshop, and the person who gave the inaugural speech was Sam. And that was such a brilliant speech. In all my years of education, I would not be able to match his speech. And recently, there was another child on Teacher's Day was asked by his teacher. The child was an autistic child. He could not write. He was given a tablet. That's why I said assistive products. The WHO needs to define where would you proactively give assistive products. Why does it have to be a PhD student? It can be a lower class student also. This child was asked on a Teacher's Day, who in one sentence is your teacher? And do you know the answer that was given? The answer was a storehouse of knowledge that opens the world to the student. I, in all my training, would not have given that answer. Here's an autistic child tapping on the tablet which is recently gifted to him by a donor, and he gave that answer. So it's very difficult. It's only for administrative reasons of the calculation. It should be simpler, done by a teacher. What is the functional limitation this child has? You don't need medical qualification for that. Functional limitation, anybody can double check and verify. You give that certificate, easy, doesn't matter, 40, 50, 60, doesn't matter. He's the person. I won't name the place. I was at a place. I was picked up and driven from one place to another place by a polio patient. Polio, both lower legs paralyzed. He was driving. He said, I don't have a driving license, which I don't encourage. I said, you must at least have a learner's license. But he was able to drive. Functional limitation, functional ability, you need to look at the two. So the classification, I have a problem. There are different, the original one which you were using is the American Academy of Orthopedic Surgeons. Then the AIMS, Dr. Verma's classification system, where you categorized as percentage of impairment based on what percentage is the deficit compared to the normal limb. So 30% or 80% or 90% of the normal limb. So hemiplegic is one whole limb, depending on, again, there are add-ons that are there. Sensory deficit, stereognosis deficit, intellectual, all these are add-ons. It's a very complex system. There may be variations. Therefore, you need to simplify to just functional limitations. Nothing more than that. I appeal to whoever is there in the policy making group to think of it in terms of functional and keep it to people that are classified. Sorry, a long answer, but this is important. Thank you, Samir, for asking that.
Thank you so much, Dr. Varghese. And definitely the medicalization has set up in the DNA of the medical education system. So a long way to go, but definitely there is a 2018 January Gazette notification guidelines for assessment of disabilities, which are now followed. But of course, there is so much of variance. So finally, while taking as the role of the moderator, I'm picking one question for Dr. Indumati Rao. Ma'am, there is a question that in the immunization cards, there are line drawing pictures that narrate the development of children and also suggest recommendations to facilitate development. Probably they're referring to the growth charts. But unfortunately, it has been included now by the government, but they are not being understood or read by the family. So what can be done in this situation?
There
All
are,
growth
there are certain issues, Dr. Singh. The development parameters that is available is more norm taken across the globe, and the Indian norms, the UNICEF feels that it can create a lot of stress in parents when developmental parameters is shared. Like if we look at something like DDST2, so if we share it, it can create a lot of stress. So we need to come with a very delicate balance, like how we are going to really project. So it is not with those red marks and the signals, but we need to project in such a way that without creating stress in parents, how do they really understand holistic development and how do they really help? Because that is something that has to, we need to really discuss with the Women and Child Development Ministry, which we have started a dialogue. And that is something very, very important because just the UNICEF concern is it will create stress, but we can't throw the baby with bath water. So we need to do something about. But I just have one question. I don't know question, but concern. Repeatedly, I see from some states, including Kerala. I'm sorry, Dr. Varghese. I get a certificate where I see that child having, say, dyslexia, learning disability, and I also get the certificates saying that dyslexia cured. Okay, I also see those certificates. That can happen in say in countries like ours, but the most critical issue is a child has been given a SLD certificate when the child is around 9 years, and the same child assessed by the same institute, they say that the assessment was wrong and he never had say learning disability. He had he is just a slow learner, and the boy has completed now 23 years, but as per the RBWD Act, they had need to go through two assessments, and one is at the age of 18. I feel this is a very serious issue. When the child never wanted a certificate, he got one. When he needs one to get some benefits, he has been denied. So we need to really do something about it.
Yes.
It's a very serious issue. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Rao. And there is one question for Jayanti. Are there specific schemes for widowed person with disability?
Sorry, are there
specific schemes for widow persons with disability?
No, actually, we will be dealing only disabled and this one, no, sir. For I mean, for widow also comes under disabled only. I mean, I don't know exactly what the disabled widow schemes. I have to get back to you. Yeah, I'll discuss with our higher officials and I'll get back.
Thank you, Jayanti ji. And for Neelam, ma'am, Dr. Sodi, there are only words of appreciation for your talk. So there is no specific questions addressed to you. And so finally, in the interest of time, I would, invite Dr. Sunanda Reddy to give the final word of thanks.
Thank you, Satendrajit. Thank you all who had actually agreed to speak today at a very short notice. And in fact, I'm really privileged that all of you took time out of your busy schedules to today enlighten people on a very vital topic that is dear to me. In fact, disability inclusive development has so many facets. And actually, even that is becoming a buzzword now in this SDG era. But I realize that apart from even the things that we've discussed today, there is a need to involve persons of disabilities to not just be beneficiaries, but even to work towards SDGs and inclusive development. In fact, we need many community-based organizations led by persons with disabilities So I think there's so many aspects, health, education, livelihoods. And I feel that today we really got, a very good view of experts. And despite the fact that we need to do a series on such things and raise awareness and advocacy, as each speaker said today, and I'm really thankful to all of you who participated. And I must thank IACP for giving me this opportunity as a chair of inclusion team, and all my team members who have actually played a very important role, including Dr. Satyendraji, Neelam Sodi, and Jayanti. Today, we're all part of the inclusion team. And I must thank the audience. Today, of course, we usually do on a Saturday and there's a better attendance. I know Sunday had its disadvantage, but we had to adjust for this day because Saturday was pre-booked by another group. But one thing I noted that despite it being a Sunday evening and we were going beyond time, all who joined really stayed on till the end. And I hope we can share this recording more widely. I don't know. I'll check with the IACP authorities if this can go on YouTube. And thank you all, everybody, one and all.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.